been, you start your book with one of my favorite stories of the entire Bible. And so I was like, I'm going to
Yeah.
like this book because not many men either are going to start their book with John chapter 4 when
Yeah.
Jesus meets the woman at the well. Um, what do you find in common with this woman? Because I've taught on that chapter 1,000 times, and I love it so much. And I myself personally find so much in common with this woman. When you look at this story and you see this woman, what do you see in common with her?
Mhm. Well, she's all of us, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's the thing. It's interesting, and the Bible does some weird stuff when it comes to stories that are relatable, right? And I won't. If you ever want to have a really good conversation, we'll talk about Judas, right? And the theology of Judas and like what happens to Judas because have we all betrayed
Mm,
at some level? So that's interesting, right? So all these stories, especially the one at the well, starts becoming relatable to us, and we put ourselves in the position of her. And we sit there and understand that this woman who has been pushed aside from society, who's been beaten down, every time she steps out of her house, she feels worse about herself. When she's in her house, she's probably like us, contemplating all the things that people have said, all the labels that people have placed on her, how she's not welcome, loved, wanted, connected. And so she sits there. I'm imagining this, right? I think if it would be me, but I'm imagining her sitting there in her room, feeling desperate, alone. And then she walks to the well one day, which is common, probably on her way there, not really talking to anybody and being pushed aside by everybody. She sits down at the well and somebody talks to her, and it's Jesus. And she starts explaining herself with her labels that have been placed on her. She's kind of like me, where, in a different level, a lot more, but like all of a sudden she starts spewing this vulnerability in a lot of ways. Like, who I am. Like, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. And it almost is like she can't get past the labels that have been placed on her. She can't get past the shame that has been pushed on her from others to see who she really is. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the story is Jesus just looks at her and says, do you know who you are? Like, I imagine Jesus in that moment breaking down, knowing that like one of his most beloved feels like they're just a label, just a category. And especially, I mean, for me, I've had the benefit of having labels placed on me that are pretty good. Like, I'm just the bachelor. Well, that's not
right.
that bad. It gives
Yeah.
me a lot of good things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's fine. Can you imagine if I was called just the drunkard,
Mm-hmm.
just the person without a home, just the diseased, just the betrayer, just the doubter, like all the time? If that's how people knew me, if that's how people knew people listening, if how you knew, if they, it's how they knew you, and
Mm-hmm.
I just see myself in her, and then I see one of the most beautiful ways Jesus responds is just telling her how valuable she is. And so, yeah, it comes in the chapter of the book where we talk about releasing the labels. Yeah, she's a strong woman who still walks to the well every day, even though she probably doesn't want to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's something.